Do you know who I am? I'm kind of a big deal.
Hello there, and welcome inside another edition. It is the Bmore Baseball Podcast. He's the former Oriole Hall of Famer, the 14-year veteran. It's Mike Bordick. I'm Jerry Coleman. We're producing brand new content every day. We have an X page. We have an Instagram page. We have a Facebook page. We have a YouTube site. You can find us all at the same address, Bmore Sports Pod. You can watch, listen, subscribe. If you do subscribe and show us evidence, like Kevin last week in Elk Ridge, you get a $50 gift card, compliments of Lido Pizza. Again, Bmore Sports Pod is where we're at. Bordy, we're in episode 35. We'll be joined by athletics executive extraordinaire, the great Billy Beane. We'll also discuss Albert Pujols as a possible managerial candidate for the Orioles. We'll see how legit that is. And, of course, we'll preview the 121st Fall Classic, the World Series just ahead. But let's bring in our featured guest. He is sponsored by Pappas Seafood. From crab cakes to seafood classics, they'll deliver straight to your door. 4 locations in the Baltimore area, plus nationwide shipping. Order today by going to pappascrabcakes.com. That's pappascrabcakes.com. Billy Beane, thanks for being here with us. Now, I was told by a source that you don't do a lot of these podcasts, so I have to ask. First of all, we're very grateful to have you on, but why start and choose us? I mean, of all the podcasts in the world you've been invited on, why do you do these so infrequently?
Hey, well, listen, when Mike Bordick calls, I answer the phone. So listen, it's great. I know I'm going to sound a little patronizing, but he's one of my favorites. We were teammates when I started as assistant GM, when Mike was really starting to escalate in his career. I got to negotiate his first arbitration contract, which was very odd because we were friends and teammates. Yeah. And so, listen, I know he's pretty famous in the Oriole world, but he's also pretty famous in the A's world. And a lot of his reputation was just based on the type of player he was coming up. Everyone loved Mike. And again, when he calls, I'm happy to help out in any way I can. So, and listen, this is going to sound contrived, but I've actually received Pappas out here. My neighbors, my son's best friend is from the Baltimore area. And as a gift, they actually sent me some Pappas seafood. It was delivered to my door, and it was fantastic.
All right. Yeah.
That's going to sound like a plug, but it's a true story. I'm very familiar with it. And I was a happy customer, and again, it was everything you said in the beforehand is absolutely true. So
yeah, nothing better than the Pappas.
It's great. I never had it. I've eaten crab in Baltimore, but I never had Pappas because I'm from California, and it was sent by some natives there. So there you go.
Good stuff, man. You mentioned we were teammates, Billy, and thanks for coming on the show. Really appreciate that. And when we were teammates in Tacoma back in 1989, you had already kind of been a player. You've gone through the grind. You know, you were a highly touted player, and I was a little bit naive, I think. But I guess my question to you is, you were a great multi-sport athlete. Signing out of high school, you were headed to Stanford to be the quarterback after John Elway was there. Today, we don't see many multi-sport athletes. Everybody's so sport specific. Have you noticed that? And is that any kind of ramification in the player today because of that?
Yeah, you know, well, first of all, it wasn't that easy going into college to play. One of the reasons I chose Stanford was they were one of the few colleges at the time that let you play both. Even back then, teams were pretty partial to the football programs. I mean, the other thing is just I have to clarify. I was the only guy dumb enough to sign a year behind John Elway. So recruiting a quarterback behind John Elway, they only were able to fool one person. That was me, because obviously one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, and was nobody was going to play for the entire time John was there. So I need to sort of qualify that. But listen, I think, I will say this, Mike, and I believe this, is the players playing baseball, and I'll speak for baseball because that's the industry, and they are so good. The young players, listen, when I like to see them play more sports, yeah, I just think it makes for a well-rounded athlete, and I think there's experiences you gain on different fields that help you. That being said, I think kids, it's hard unless you're just an extraordinary person, an athlete, to not specialize, because the competition is so great. Yeah. Again, when I see the young players coming up today, I mean, you guys see in Baltimore, you've had a host of young players come through there. Like, the players coming out of high school, the Jackson Holidays of the world, these kids are so prepared for pro ball. Bordick, you came out of University of Maine. I came out of high school. For us, this was just, I mean, the idea that I would be hanging out with a guy from Maine to begin with would be like, sacrilegious. These kids now, they all they know each other. They've come up, they're so prepared. And whether it's good or bad, it's a result, I think, of specialization. That being said, some of the greatest players you and I play with, Bordy, were multi-sport guys.
Yeah.
And listen, if you are good enough, you can make demands on your program. Listen, if you're Bo Jackson, you can go tell any of those guys, hey, I'm playing this and I'm playing that. Most kids don't have that. It's like they're sort of given, hey, you got to choose right now, unfortunately. I just think the reason I like it just makes it more interesting. When I see like clips of the Freelick kid from the Brewers playing in a football game in high school and realizing how talented a quarterback he was, as a fan, I think it's fun to watch that, and I think it's really cool. So I think we missed that part of it, but it's hard to argue with how great the young players are. They are really, really good. I mean, it's intimidating when I see these kids playing. I mean, again, you guys have the opportunity to see some great ones in Baltimore. They're a pretty amazing group player, and they're all over the league.
And they're like you. They're big guys, man. They're like 6'3", 225, every one of them, and they move.
And actually good. And unlike me, actually good. Yeah. So they really are. I mean, there's a kid in Oakland. You guys saw him. This kid Kurtz. I mean, he's. You know what? He spent like a couple months in the minor leagues, and he's doing things that Pujols. You mentioned Pujols from the opening. He's really a special kid. And again, that's. He went to Wake Forest, but that's an example of the kids being so prepared now for pro ball, and it makes for a great product, to be honest with you.
Interesting. The way college baseball is structured now really kind of molds, I think, young players towards that premier type of player, like him. I mean, okay, so he gets maybe a little bit older, gets to go to college, gets paid, so he's kind of treated more like a professional now in college. Yeah. So they're able to just lock in and go after it day after day, just like a professional would. So yeah, really interesting right there. But it's a tiered system right now. What do you think about that in college baseball? That portal now that everybody gets to go into.
Again, I think it's leading more. I mean, I think it's leading to a lot of. I think first of all, I think people are attracted to baseball because of the opportunities you have in college and in pro ball. The other thing is, I think on both sides, it used to be, which was better for development. I think both are great right now. And professional baseball now, Mike, when you enter it, I mean, going to the minor leagues and playing, the stadiums are, there's rules on how stadiums, the things they have to have, the accoutrements that come to making things easier. And the old stories of the minor leagues is sort of, Bull Durham type of thing that doesn't exist. Almost all these places are great places to play, great towns. The kids are really taken care of, and as a result, the development's much better.
I love it.
I have to ask you, you're known as the godfather of sabermetrics. I don't know if you embrace that title or what, but
I prefer the captain. I prefer the Captain Kirk. That's what
Captain sabermetrics. We'll go with that. Is that what we know now today in layman's terms as analytics, or has it been somewhat altered, Billy?
Listen, first of all, I think it's been great. I know, a lot of the purists, and I got to confess to a story. My oldest daughter lives in Chicago, and I was in town visiting her, and we decided, hey, let's go to a Cubs game. Right. I really haven't been as a civilian. I've always gone as somebody who had something, some vested interest in the outcome. So we went to a Cubs game a couple of years ago. Jed Hoyer got me some great seats. It was a blast. And I looked up on the scoreboard and I go, I don't recognize any of these numbers up there. And my daughter goes, what are you kidding? You're partly the reason it's up there. You're responsible for that. I said, I don't know what it is. So even I was confused. That being said, listen, I think baseball has become one of the smartest industries in the world. Listen, is it a much different game being played now? No question. It's a harder game. I mean, listen, and I saw this somewhere else, when a guy like Ohtani is, Ohtani is playing and he's pitching, and they compare what he's done to what Babe Ruth has done, right? But you know what? Babe Ruth when he was going in an 8 or 9 inning game, got to face a starter who'd thrown 140 pitches. Ohtani's facing a guy who just came out of the bullpen throwing 100. Yeah. I mean, so hitting 3 homers now versus 3 homers later, it's a little different. I mean, the game has changed. Has analytics driven a lot of it? Definitely. It's in some sense, it's made it very hard, especially on hitters. I mean, when Bordy was playing, when I was playing, you had one or two guys throwing 94, 95. You got a whole bullpen throwing 99 miles an hour, and the ball's moving, and they also have access to information. So, listen, I think it's made the game, I like the changes, okay? The genie's out of the bottle. The information's there. We can't pretend we don't have it. You know, you and I might not have grown up with it, but it's there. And listen, if the teams don't pay attention to, there's a bunch of 15-year-olds out there that are. And it's kind of like the umpire strike zone a little bit. Bordy and I came up when, listen, whatever the call was, if you beat the play at first, you didn't get a hit, you didn't get to review it, now. But listen, the whole world gets to see the strike zone box on TV, right?
Yeah.
And the idea that the only person who doesn't get the benefit of that is the guy making the call. Well, you know what? It's going to be hard to imagine that. Again, I don't know. I don't have any impact on the rules, but the idea that we ultimately won't go to a system where that guy, the decision's made there, because you can't have all this info out there and ignore it. So I think the other great thing about what analytics has done is it's opened the world of sports to the best and the brightest young minds in the world. It used to be if you worked in the front office, my route was traditional. I was an ex-player. Hey, I got to go, scout or coach or run the team. You did. If you weren't an ex-player, you really couldn't join the club, so to speak. And I think, if anything, analytics said, hey, you know what? Running a team's a different skill set. We need the best and the brightest. And it's also opened the world up to a lot of really bright young women who didn't have access to sports. And so, again, is it a change, Jerry, from guys that we grew up in Bordy? We grew up in different. Yeah, but you know what? I think in some sense, I embrace it, and that's evolution. You know what I'm saying? If so.
I think the phrase we keep hearing, and I mention it to Bordy routinely, I think weekly, the nerds are taking over baseball.
Listen, call them what you want. I sort of say a lot of smart people are now getting a chance to sort of, I'll tell you here's a great, dude. You look at the shift, Bordy, right? By the time, you were stopped playing, the shift wasn't, you'd kind of slightly move up the middle, but it wasn't dramatic.
Right.
And so here you've got the shift, right? And visually, if you're a fan, you're going, well, why don't they just hit it over here, right? Well, first of all, it's not that easy, right, Mike? And by the way, the other thing, and Mike will tell you, just bunt. Bunting's not that easy either.
Not today, anyway.
But the idea that, say, 5 or 6 years we had the shift, right? And they had to change the rules because it was so effective. So what that really tells you is that, like, a bunch of those, I call them smart guys, smart young and women, come into the game and said, you guys have been doing it wrong for 150 years. So what they did was they say, we're going to play the defense here, and it's so good that you have to change the rules. You can't do it anymore. So to me, that's a little bit of you may not like it visually. It may look odd to you, but the fact of the matter is it worked. And it worked because a bunch of really smart young men and women came in and said, you guys have been doing this wrong. Bordy, you should have been playing on this side of the bag when Ortiz was hitting, not over there, Right. And so to me, that's a great example. 160 years of playing defense one way. Few smart guys come in and said, oops, we got to change the rules. This is working too good.
Around a little bit.
More of the Bmore Baseball podcast coming right up. At Pappas Restaurants, we've been serving up Maryland's best crab cakes for over 5 decades, and now we make it easier than ever to get your favorites. With 4 restaurants and sports bar locations across Harford County, Baltimore County, and Anne Arundel County, you can stop in for fresh seafood, ice-cold drinks, and wall-to-wall TVs. But if you can't make it in, don't worry. We'll bring Pappas to you. Our new state-of-the-art shipping and commissary location on Bel Air Road in Nottingham means you can pick up fresh-made meals or have our famous crab cakes and seafood shipped anywhere in the country. Dine in, pick up, or ship nationwide. However you Pappas, we've got you covered. Order now at pappascrabcakes.com. Shop Maryland's largest adult use and medical cannabis menu, located at 1114 Cathedral Street in Baltimore, with medical delivery available throughout Maryland 7 days a week. Only at Relief Shop.
I'm retired now, but I was an Orioles home run. Grand slam, actually. Took a sweet ride right into the flag court, and it was awesome. Could be awesome for you, too. If you play Home Run Riches from the Maryland Lottery, you could win instantly, or be a contestant of the game and win $500 for being selected, $500 for every Orioles home run, and $5,000 for every grand slam. Sounds like a ball if you ask me. Enter all season at mdlottery.com.
In a city where passion runs deep, on the stage and on the field, Baltimore knows how to bring the heat. Whether it's a game-winning home run or a breathtaking violin solo, this town plays to win. The Baltimore Chamber Orchestra champions the creative soul of our city with bold performances of classically captivating music. Join the team that brings precision, power, and heart to every performance. Learn more and get your season tickets now at thebco.org.
So finding that perfect combination, though, is that not the way of it? I mean, I look at pretty good organizations. You still got to teach guys how to catch a baseball, where to throw a baseball, things like that. And sometimes I see that might be lacking a little bit, especially with some of I think there's tremendous turnover now. So a lot of young guys coming up through, and they might not be as polished situationally, but they've got great bat speed, and of course their velocity is incredible, and they look like freak athletes and things like that. So finding that balance is certainly the key, correct?
Yeah. Listen, no doubt, and a lot of the teaching now goes on at the major league level, and as opposed to but I will say, even in the minor leagues, the teams are even now. I mean, Mike, when you and I came up, we had a manager, we had a coach, and you might have a pitching coach, and now you have teams that have 4 or 5 different guys that help with the development there. So there's definitely an assist there, but there's no doubt that, listen, one of the reasons, it's nice to have young players. I can speak from when I was running a smaller market club, is that young players are cheaper. And so economically it makes sense.
So we're going to continue our conversation with the executive from the Athletics next week. We'll get into how Moneyball has impacted his life, Bordy, and it certainly has. That was a great Academy Award-winning movie. And we'll talk about what Mike Elias has meant to the Orioles. Now on to For the Birds, sponsored by the Maryland Lottery. Playing the Maryland Lottery responsibly means knowing what's true and what's not about your favorite games. Learn the facts and myths by going to mdlottery.com. That's mdlottery.com. And as always, please play responsibly. All right, so Bordy, the Orioles' secret managerial search. We do not know who the next skipper will be or how long this process is going to take. We've heard about a couple of candidates, including former slugger Albert Pujols, the Cardinals star, and then he faded out with the Angels, who are still paying him to this day. But the Angels didn't want him to be their manager, despite him being already on the payroll. Where would he be a fit for the Orioles? For me, not a fit, because I think they need someone who maybe can deal with Latin players. I don't know if the Orioles have enough Latin players to suffice. And I want someone with a little more experience. I mean, I would give Tony Mansolino the edge in experience over Pujols only because he finished out the season.
No, absolutely. I love Albert Pujols. I think it's very intriguing that they're even thinking about entertaining a baseball guy, So I think that gives some of us some hope for sure. But I think right now, Pujols, with his lack of experience, if he can get on as a bench coach maybe, or a first base coach at the big league level, I think that will definitely help. And I'm not knocking his experience. I think he might be probably one of the smartest baseball guys going right now, but it's just dealing with a clubhouse, dealing with an analytic department, dealing with in-game strategies and things like that. Us old school baseball guys think we know so much about baseball, but the game has changed completely. And I know he's got his finger on the pulse of that. That's why he's kind of putting his name in there, because just recently he managed down at Dominican. He won the Caribbean World Series. I think he's got a nice rapport with players, and he definitely could get the most out of them. So I'm not knocking Albert Pujols in that sense. I think he would get the most out of players. But as far as a big league manager, I just think it's a different beast nowadays. I don't think it'll be long before he's behind, the manager's desk in the big leagues. I just hope the Orioles find somebody. I don't know. They've talked about Ryan Flaherty as a lead candidate. Louis Rojas' name, the third base coach for the Yankees, came up as well. I'd like them to be a little bit more upfront about who they're entertaining as possible managers, because I've heard there's some teams here recently that are actually looking into the college baseball ranks, NCAA, like maybe going right from a D1 program to being a big league manager, because they know so much about the analytic game now and how it's kind of taken over college baseball as well.
Yeah, at last glance, there were at least a half dozen managerial jobs that are going to be open at the end of the season. So you would think there's a sense of urgency. The connection between Pujols and Elias, I was trying to figure it out, but when Elias was a scout with the Cardinals, Pujols was a star there. You also have Cal Ripken waiting in the wings. He has no interest in managing the team, but if you're going to get someone who's a former player, you think it might be a former Oriole.
Well, this is the head scratcher to me. All these names that they're talking about, other than Ryan Flaherty, the most current player, there is a slew of really smart baseball players living right here in Baltimore that could certainly, add for an interesting interview, I think. And BJ Surhoff, one of the smartest baseball minds I know, lives right here in Baltimore. I think that would be an interesting interview. And I think there are a lot of other guys that they should at least entertain because, they're selling them short because there's a great amount of wisdom from, maybe an older school type of player. And none of them, to a guy, I don't think, is knocking analytics. They just want to work with them so that the strategies of the game can be a little bit more pure and maybe more winnable games if you can kind of tap into that.
Yeah, I personally would have to veto the surly Surhoff. He doesn't smile enough to be a major league manager, in my opinion. That's just my opinion, not the podcast. All right. Moving on. Something else I want to address, Bordy. It's the Gold Glove finalists. They've been announced, and no Orioles were listed. It's been a while since Ramon Arias was the last to win it, but you thought the Orioles had a few candidates out there.
Yeah, one anyway. And I think Laureano out in the outfield, if he would have been able to stay a little bit healthier, would have probably been a candidate for the Orioles. But Gunnar Henderson, I think, really made incredible improvements at shortstop. And I thought for sure he would be a candidate and maybe even win it. I mean, he's young. He's got great range. He's been able to slow the game down. And I think that's probably the most noticeable thing for Gunnar Henderson. It's just learning that game clock management, understanding the speed of the ball, speed of the runner is crucial in the middle of the infield. And it took him a little while to understand that. And I think a lot of young infielders, the speed of the big league game, the urgency that has to be in your mind on every play is imperative. And it takes guys a little bit longer to learn that up there. Jackson Holliday still learning, although he took great leaps and bounds defensively this year. And maybe one day will be a Gold Glove candidate. But I was surprised Gunnar was left off. He had a nice errorless streak as well that might still be going. So, I'm a big fan of Gunnar at shortstop. I think he's rangy. I don't know that the defensive matrix kind of played out in his favor. And I think that, in my opinion, is kind of a mystery too, because they haven't perfected it yet. And I think it's still kind of speculation. So my eye, looking at Gunnar play shortstop, I thought, he should have been a Gold Glove finalist for sure.
Well, yeah, typically a last place team doesn't garner many awards. I understand where you're coming from. I did notice that former Oriole Kyle Stowers is a finalist in the outfield for the Marlins over on the National League side. And we'll find out the winners coming up November the 3rd, because baseball, they love to drag out this awards season.
It's saving season at Lido Pizza. 99-cent refreshing iced teas for spring and summer, or $6 calzones every Tuesday. There are tons of new deals and rewards for everyone, exclusively at LidoPizza.com or on the Lido Pizza app. Lido Pizza, a local legend since 1955, proud partner of the Baltimore Orioles. For years, we were told to say no, but Verano is rewriting that story with award-winning flour, vapes, edibles, concentrates, and topicals for every kind of vibe. Shop smart with Savvy. Treat yourself with Encore chocolates. Relax with an Avexia bath soak. Or keep it light with Bits gummies. Want something premium? Grab Essence pre-rolls or a Reserve 8th. Verano makes premium cannabis for all. Find out for yourself. Head to one of our original sponsors, Relief Shop in Baltimore on Cathedral Avenue, and mention Bmore Verano for an exclusive deal. That's Bmore Verano. This ad and products are intended for legal consumers 21 and over. Everyone knows Greenmount Station in Hampstead, but did you know that at Greenmount Station you can bet 7 days a week just like you're at the track? With in-person teller windows and state-of-the-art touchscreen kiosks. And with Greenmount Station's brand new Bet Park Sportsbook, you can bet on all other sports as well, wherever you are in Maryland. Spreads, money lines, live bets, props, parlays, and teasers. The Bet Parks Maryland mobile app is now live for Apple and Android devices, so you'll never miss your next big score. Just search for BetParks MD in the Apple App Store or on Google Play. 21 and over only. Please play responsibly. For help, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Effective Solutions, your one-stop shop for commercial contracting. Everything from excavation and site development to emergency remediation and restoration. Effective Solutions specializes in many forms of commercial and mixed-use construction. With a dedicated staff and a commitment to quality, Effective Solutions delivers every time.
All right. We're not going to drag out this podcast. We're moving in rapid fashion. We move beyond Baltimore. Brought to you by Relief Shop, Baltimore's best adult use and medical cannabis dispensary with 700 plus unique menu items and home delivery, always available for medical patients, courtesy of Relief Shop. They're right there in the heart of the city on Cathedral Street. So the 121st Fall Classic, the World Series is all set. The Dodgers and the Blue Jays, Toronto winning Game 7 against Seattle. Boy, the Mariners, I mean, how bad do you feel for them? They still have never been to a World Series in their history. They came into baseball the same years as the Jays as an expansion franchise in 1977. Before we get to the Fall Classic, how about the things went awry for the Mariners there, and the big dumper, Cal Raleigh, hit a home run in that decisive game, but it wasn't enough.
Yeah. I really feel bad for the Mariners. I mean, that was an emotional series. There ain't no doubt about that. And you gotta tip your hat to both teams. The effort they put in, the comeback from the Blue Jays was incredible. And it shows you how powerful that offense is. Let's not say powerful, but just, I guess, an unbreakable offense because everybody contributes. I mean, man, the bottom of their lineup contributed. And if Seattle had any kind of 7, 8, 9 type of lineup hitters, I think it might have been different. What's going to be the hard part about Seattle? And I think, they were kind of the fan favorite because they'd never been, a lot of people emotionally pulling for them, is that now they got to chew on this, man, the whole offseason and look back, not on just this game, losing Game 7, but throughout the series because they were up 2-0, man. They had some great opportunities. We saw poor defense from Seattle when it mattered most. We saw inability to get bunts down and move runners over when it mattered most. And the playoff game of baseball is that more kind of old school where situational baseball, if you can execute, you will win. When defense falters a little bit, boy, does it show up. It is magnified in the postseason. And unfortunately, Seattle got hurt by a couple games when there was a little bit of a letdown, and the Blue Jays played just a little bit better, both defensively and offensively, that ability to put that ball in play.
Yeah, Vladimir Guerrero was unbelievable. He was the series MVP. George Springer will never have to buy a Labatt's or whatever beer they're serving up in Toronto again.
What a hero.
Forever.
What a postseason legend he has become, man, from coming up with the Astros. And then, of course, up here, I just love it. That was a very emotional series. And when you watch these two teams battle like that, it's just a sportsman and a competitor. You wish they'd come together and shake hands and say, hey, great effort all season long, man. We're going to the World Series. You're not, but what a battle. That's what it's truly all about. Great competitive nature right there.
Now for a preview of the Fall Classic, the Dodgers breezed their way through the regular season. A lot of people thought they just took the regular season off, entered as a wild card, and then turned it on.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what they did do is they got healthy. When they were kind of laying low and actually kind of one of the worst teams in baseball for a couple months, man, oh man, they just lost so much of their star power. And they started getting healthy in September. Snell came back. Glasnow came back. Mookie started to feel a little bit better. Freddie Freeman started to feel a little bit better. I mean, they just have stars all over the place. When they started the season, looking at that team as a healthy team, you think they potentially could go undefeated because they were just stacked from top to bottom, bullpen, starters. And now that they're healthy again, that's what's emerging. I mean, they just have the best players in the game. There are MVPs all over the place, and they arguably have the greatest player of all time. And we're witnessing some amazing things from Ohtani.
We haven't talked about that NLCS clincher, the greatest game I've ever seen, where it's something you dream about in Little League. You strike out 10 opposing batters and hit 3 home runs. I'm sure it may happen occasionally in high school, unprecedented at that level. Do you think it would have even been a lot bigger had it happened in a World Series setting, or is this something we're always going to remember?
Oh, no, we'll always remember this. I mean, this is like the USA winning the gold medal, or everybody thinking they won the gold medal against Russia when it was a medal game, but they had to win the gold medal still. So that's the impact, I think, of what Shohei Ohtani has done. Just an incredible game, both sides of the baseball, the pitching, the offense, and to hear people talk about it is what I think is the most fun. Well, Mookie Betts, arguably one of the greatest players of all time. The guy's a Gold Glove center fielder. He's the shortstop now. He's an MVP. The guy mashes, great speed, and he's in awe of Shohei Ohtani. And the list goes on and on. Just great players in such admiration and awe of what they're witnessing. It's been impressive. It's been so much fun. And we should all kind of take note of that and say what we're witnessing right here. The greatest baseball players in the world are playing right now. Unbelievable athletes. And at the pinnacle is Ohtani, and it is just incredible. He's the fastest. He's the best pitcher. He's the best hitter. I mean, it goes on and on. Incredible.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. It's an international World Series with Ohtani and Vladimir Guerrero. What about with Ohtani, though? Do you think the Blue Jays are going to be smart enough to pitch to him or wise enough to just walk him?
Wow. I think they're going to kind of pick their poison, right? Because if you walk a guy, you still got to face another MVP. And really their lineup is kind of very similar. They just have studs all the way through. This is definitely a David and Goliath. But I'll tell you what, I texted Buck Martinez. We had him on our show earlier. I texted him last night after the game, and he said, we've done this all year. They just are resilient, gritty bunch, and they fight to the end. They put the ball in play, and they play great defense. And I loved how they lined up their pitching. After, the starter got out, then it was to the back end of the bullpen to keep this game in check. And then you brought the horse starters out with Gosman. I mean, it was fun, man. I really enjoyed watching how that went.
Yeah, we got to see Max Scherzer one more time in a World Series setting. So who do you have winning this thing? I got the Dodgers in 5 or 6 games. What about you?
Yeah, I've said that all along. Like I said, beginning of the season, I thought they were going to go undefeated. Now that they're healthy, I mean, holy cow, to watch these arms come out. Every arm is just a horse. If you make it through the starters, good luck trying to find your way through that bullpen because they've got starters in the bullpen now too. Listen, the Blue Jays are going to fight and give everything they have. I just don't know that they can match up enough with the star power the Dodgers have. So, yeah, I'm going to say Dodgers about the same. I'm going to say 6 because I think just the Blue Jays have that much piss and vinegar in them, man. They are going to fight to the bitter end.
Yeah, hopefully it's not a sweep and we get a good World Series. That's for sure. We know we're going to get a good segment with the doc. Let's bring him in. Former Orioles team Dr. Michael Jacobs joining us. Doc, well, let's talk about the Orioles because we had been talking about them earlier in the podcast, trying to figure out who their next manager is going to be. But they also have to start looking at pitchers. And what do you do specifically when you review the potential to draft or trade for a pitcher within the organization? What's the approach?
When you're looking for pitchers, which we've always done a good job of, particularly we were more involved before Mike came into the picture, who's more analytical. But there's 2 aspects of it. There's the obvious pre-op or pre-trade, not pre-op vision of it. And you look at a veteran player, you look at his injury history. If he's had Tommy John surgery, which is what 60% of the pitchers now, you want to see how long he's had it because they tend to stretch out with time. And once you get past 6 or 7 years, you get in kind of a danger zone where guys are starting to have a repeat. So you really do have to integrate their velocity matrix with how long they've been out from surgery. You also have to look at their general makeup. As Mike used to say, biology is biology. If you have a McNeil kind of guy who historically has spent tons of times on DL with multiple aches and pains, there are a lot of pitchers that won't pitch if they're not perfect. So today with the open medical records and the electronic medical records, it's a lot easier to get more information so that the front office can decide that. I would say in the old days with Duquette and Buck and Gillick, they also had a great network of talking to previous teammates of the pitcher and would get a personality profile on them. I don't know because Mike Elias and I never had that relationship, whether he does that or not, but I know Buck and Gillick were very big on that. And I think that's key. If you can talk to a Mike Bordick and ask him about a pitcher he's thinking about, he'll know how the team felt. Is this guy going to show up when he needs to? Is he going to come up short mentally? So that's a big part. When you're looking at drafting players and going for long-term players, I always had my own disposition on it, which, again, in the older days, I had a lot of contact with the pitching people. Mike kind of silos the doctor from other people, so he's different. But I always felt that to be the best aptitude for a pitcher are certain physical characteristics. It certainly does apply to everyone. But in general, most pitchers are very loose jointed. They have very loose shoulders and are able to get great leverage when they cock their arms. And I've dealt with many pitchers who are super loose jointed. And even a guy like Mike Bucina, who, if you met him, was not the biggest guy you ever met, but he was very flexible, so could get great leverage on his pitches. If you look on, the biggest arm I've ever seen is Manny Machado, and Manny is very loose jointed. The risk of that, of course, is that occasionally those players get too loose. And if you remember, the Yankees drafted Taylor as a 1-1 pick, and he got into a fight and dislocated his shoulder, and he was never quite able to get back to that. So most pitchers I look for have loose joints. And again, particularly in their wrist, like I've said before about Lee Smith, a lot of pitchers get their arm out here and then flip the ball. And if you can lay your wrist back farther, it allows you to have more control over the flip part. And it allows you to throw pitches like splits that bother some people's elbows. Similarly, if you have big hands, again, you can tuck those split pitches way back in your fingers and release that split even easier. Some pitchers who have real short fingers and are tight can get away with throwing heavy spin pitches, but it really takes a toll on their elbow. I can't name some of our pitchers who did that, but we had several who had 2 or 3 really dynamite years, but then their elbows just became a major problem. And the real mystery of pitchers in general is, you like them to be 6'11". And when we had Ben McDonald, we had Ryan, we had Johnson, we had about 4 pitchers who were 6'5", 6'6". And on the one hand, when they were good, everybody loved them. But I can't tell you how many times I heard the pitching coaches say, these darn super tall pitchers, they can't reproduce their motion all the time. And when they can't reproduce their motion, because they're so tall and lanky, their pitches go off. So that's a real piece of art that the pitching coaches have to assess. And there are always exceptions. Pedro was traded because he was short and small stature, but he was super loose jointed because he had dislocated his shoulder. But he certainly lasted a long time throwing very hard. I remember in the 14 playoffs, we went up against Herrera, who's like a little block. He does not look like, he's a short, stocky guy, and he threw the heck out of the ball throwing 99. So there are always exceptions to that, but in general, I always look for taller, loose-jointed guys who had big hands. Kevin Brown, I really urged the team to re-sign because he was the perfect pitcher to me. He was not only that, he was super smart, but that aside, he did have a bit of a temper.
Sure did.
The clubhouse guys can tell you, but
no, you didn't need to be a clubhouse guy, Doc. If you walked in the locker room after one of his starts, his nameplate was in half. Because
when you see smoke coming out of the players' room, you get a little bit concerned. But that aside, he was smart, went to Georgia Tech. I think he's an engineer, but he was ideal. But we didn't sign him because actually the front office didn't like his makeup. They thought he was a bit too hot-headed, shall we say. So there are always exceptions to the rule. But I like, you look at their past medical history, and the last thing you look at in high school kids is, do they look like they've been taking PEDs? Because there's really no supervision of that at the high school level. And sometimes some of these kids with the family makeup and whatnot get pushed to extremes in high school. Then you get them at the major league level, and suddenly they're not the same guy. So I think it's important at that level. That's why I think you have to scout people in person, get to see them, talk to them, touch them, and get that all together. And you put all those things together, and you see what you got. And again, sometimes it doesn't work. Ubaldo Jimenez had all those aspects. He was tall, lanky, had giant hands. And the problem with him is he threw so many pitches, he couldn't control any of them. I mean, he threw like 9 different pitches. And I remember talking to the pitching coach. I said, why don't you get this guy just to throw 4 pitches? And their answer is, we've been trying, Doc, but we can't figure out how to get him to do it. But he could throw 10 different pitches, but they all spun so much, he didn't really know where any of them went because he had crazy high spin rates. So everything has its pluses and minuses, but I hope that helped you.
Helpful. Thank you so much, Dr. Michael Jacobs. Thanks to all our sponsors out there, our loyal, dedicated ones who have been with us since the beginning, including Pappas Seafood. Yeah.
At Pappas Restaurants, we've been serving up Maryland's best crab cakes for over 5 decades, and now we make it easier than ever to get your favorites. With 4 restaurants and sports bar locations across Harford County, Baltimore County, and Anne Arundel County, you can stop in for fresh seafood, ice-cold drinks, and wall-to-wall TVs. But if you can't make it in, don't worry. We'll bring Pappas to you. Our new state-of-the-art shipping and commissary location on Bel Air Road in Nottingham means you can pick up fresh-made meals or have our famous crab cakes and seafood shipped anywhere in the country. Dine in, pick up, or ship nationwide. However you Pappas, we've got you covered. Order now at pappascrabcakes.com. For years, we were told to say no, but Verano is rewriting that story with award-winning flour, vapes, edibles, concentrates, and topicals for every kind of vibe. Shop smart with Savvy. Treat yourself with Encore chocolates. Relax with an Avexia bath soak. Or keep it light with Bits gummies. Want something premium? Grab Essence pre-rolls or a Reserve 8th. Verano makes premium cannabis for all. Find out for yourself. Head to one of our original sponsors, Relief Shop in Baltimore on Cathedral Avenue, and mention Bmore Verano for an exclusive deal. That's Bmore Verano. This ad and products are intended for legal consumers 21 and over.
I'm retired now, but I was an Orioles home run. Grand slam, actually. Took a sweet ride right into the flag court, and it was awesome. Could be awesome for you, too, if you play Home Run Riches from the Maryland Lottery. You could win instantly, or be a contestant of the game and win $500 for being selected, $500 for every Orioles home run, and $5,000 for every grand slam. Sounds like a ball, if you ask me. Enter all season at mdlottery.com.
It's saving season at Lido Pizza. 99-cent refreshing iced teas for spring and summer. Or $6 calzones every Tuesday. There are tons of new deals and rewards for everyone. Exclusively at LidoPizza.com or on the Lido Pizza app. Lido Pizza, a local legend since 1955. Proud partner of the Baltimore Orioles.
In a city where passion runs deep, on the stage and on the field, Baltimore knows how to bring the heat. Whether it's a game-winning home run or a breathtaking violin solo, this town plays to win. The Baltimore Chamber Orchestra champions the creative soul of our city with bold performances of classically captivating music. Join the team that brings precision, power, and heart to every performance. Learn more and get your season tickets now at thebco.org.
Everyone knows Greenmount Station in Hampstead, but did you know that at Greenmount Station you can bet 7 days a week just like you're at the track? With in-person teller windows and state-of-the-art touchscreen kiosks. And with Greenmount Station's brand new Bet Park Sportsbook, you can bet on all other sports as well, wherever you are in Maryland. Spreads, money lines, live bets, props, parlays, and teasers. The Bet Parks Maryland mobile app is now live for Apple and Android devices, so you'll never miss your next big score. Just search for Bet Parks MD in the Apple App Store or on Google Play. 21 and over only. Please play responsibly. For help, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Shop Maryland's largest adult use and medical cannabis menu located at 1114 Cathedral Street in Baltimore, with medical delivery available throughout Maryland 7 days a week. Only at Relief Shop. Effective Solutions, your one-stop shop for commercial contracting. Everything from excavation and site development to emergency remediation and restoration. Effective Solutions specializes in many forms of commercial and mixed-use construction. With a dedicated staff and a commitment to quality, Effective Solutions delivers every time.
Also, thanks to our senior executive producer. He likes to remain nameless, but we'll mention our super intern, Grant DeVivo. Until next week, be kind, be real, and make sure to be back for another episode, part 2 of our exclusive with the great Billy Beane here on the Bmore Baseball Podcast.
Do you know who I am? I'm kind of a big deal.